should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. Preferably in a residential area.
The following thoughts on Happy Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Happy Hour. You're tuned in to Happy Hour, an hour where Happy rants about something. Sit back and listen in. Happy Hour is on now. Happy Hour is on now.
What's up? This is Happy Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppy, and for the next 20 minutes, rather, I know it's called Happy Hour, so you expect the show to go for an hour, but there's just one thing I want to talk about. Today, we are going to discuss Amy Schumer as she trashed Tampa Bay in her latest book, and I have a few things to say about it, but first, call me, 856-49-HOPPY, that's 856-49-HOPPY, and I will be sure to take your calls in real time. Tweeting me at Ryan Hoppy Radio. And if you get the app in the Google Play and iPhone shop, search up Hoppy Radio, HOPPE Radio, and you can chat me live on there and listen anywhere in the world. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to be a shock jock, and I'm not going to be some mean bully where I say mean things about Amy Schumer, because I've had comedians on here that have worked with Amy, have seen her grow as a comedian, and are friends with her, so I don't want to burn a bridge anywhere. And there's been a lot of things that she has said that I haven't really agreed with, and I've found obnoxious, but I've sort of bit my lip and went, is it worth ranting about? So if anybody calls in today and says that she's a C word or a bitch or a whore, anything, I'm going to hang up on you if you call 856-49-HOPPY. But I do want to have an open discussion. All right. Basically, here's what I think about Amy Schumer. I've been a fan of her, and I've known about her probably since 2010, 2011, when she first appeared on Opie and Anthony. And she's really funny back then. Much more humble. Came off very likable. Came off like the girl next door you wouldn't necessarily say hi to. But she was cute, you know? She's likable. And I remember the first time I heard her, she was talking about where a taxi driver, I'm going to keep this clean, had some finger play on her. And she didn't know who the taxi driver was, and he dropped her off. And this was in New York City. But the taxi driver did some finger play on her, and I was like, wow, it's pretty funny. And then she kept doing her thing, and I've seen her get bigger over and over the years. And over the years, she just keeps on changing as a person, and it's very, very bizarre. The thing that I don't like about Amy Schumer, that I don't find genuine about her, is the fact that it doesn't seem like she's being herself. When she was on Opie and Anthony talking about finger play in the first few seasons of her show, Inside Amy Schumer, that was her being genuine. That was her being funny. But then she came out with Trainwreck, and now she's talking about gun control and all these different issues. And then she's trashing Tampa Bay for no reason in her book, which I'll get to. It doesn't come off genuine. And my thing with Amy Schumer is I don't think she knows what she wants to be. Does she want to be a sex comedian, which she based her whole career on and got famous off of? But now when any reporter ever makes a sex joke towards her, or any reporter ever says anything towards her or calls her a sex comic, she goes, "No, I'm not." Even though the first time I heard about her, she was talking about getting finger play from a random taxi driver, and her show is a play on words called Inside Amy Schumer, and the movie Trainwreck was full of double entendres. But for some reason, she's not a sex comic. To me, Amy Schumer doesn't embrace who she really is. And she's more of a comedian where she's overcompensating and she's trying to do too much at once because I feel like she thinks that her time is going to run out soon and that very, very soon she's going to end up like Dane Cook. I'm not saying she's a hack, but it just seems like she's trying to do way too much at once and she isn't letting her life play through. Like, she's 34 years old. There's no reason you should be writing a book yet. Maybe when you reach 45 or 50, but I always find it comical when these comedians or these famous radio guys or whatever write these books when they're in their 30s about what they've seen in their life. Really? You were born in the 80s. You're not old yet. You haven't seen anything. You haven't seen failure after being famous. You haven't gone broke or made it even bigger yet. That's what I find odd about her making a book, first of all, is the fact that she's so young. I know that she's done a lot, so she can talk about a lot of it. I just think it's way too soon to be making a book. And number two, when you have to have an article in your book where you're trashing Tampa Bay because of your one-night bang session, but you didn't like it, or you liked your one-night bang session, so then you call the city horrible, you kind of are a sex comic. And the fact that your book is called The Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo, you know, like a tramp tattoo, that's what I find odd, is she keeps dancing around the fact that she's not a sex comic. She keeps dancing around the fact that she's more than just that, but then she has a show called Inside Amy Schumer. She has a movie called Trainwreck. She has a book called The Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo. And then she has her hatred of Tampa Bay based on a one-night bang session. I just don't know who Amy Schumer is anymore. It's very, very odd. Because at first she came off genuine and very cute when she was on Opie and Anthony and she'd be on Ron and Fez or Bennington or the late night talk shows. I had a crush on Amy Schumer. But now I think she acts like her crap doesn't smell and she's too good for the room. Like, here's an example. She didn't trash Tampa Bay when I saw her last year at the Oddball Comedy Fest at the Amphitheater. Maybe my memory's going and I have Alzheimer's. I have no recollection of her trashing Tampa Bay in front of a sold-out crowd that paid to see her, in front of a sold-out crowd of hardworking Joes and people that might be rich that paid to see her act. Maybe my memory's going away at the age of 22, going on 23 in 12 days. But I don't really remember her trashing Tampa Bay. And that's because she's the type of comedian where she'll say things in a book to be edgy and shocking, and she'll say these wild things on radio shows and on her TV show and in interviews. But she's not going to say it in front of a live crowd because she's not going to want to lose the fan base. And at the end of the day, what she said in this book isn't that big of a deal. It's just classless, hacky, not funny, and my fourth grade cousin could come up with better material than this. And Amy Schumer is going to be in town in October, and I am going to reach out and try and get her on the show. Not trying to burn a bridge with her, just being honest here. If she wants to come on the show and grill me with hacky sex jokes, she's more than welcome to call into the show at 856-49-HOPPY. She's more than welcome to sit in. Because she has a show coming up in October at the Amalie Arena, the biggest arena in this market, in this great city that is being called one of the best up-and-coming cities. Jay-Z and Beyonce just bought a house here. It's sunny all the time. You have the Tampa Bay Rays, even though they're not having a good season, they've had success in the past. The Buccaneers are an up-and-coming team. And the arena that she's playing at is home to this good team. I don't know if you've heard of the Tampa Bay Lightning guys. So if she hates Tampa Bay so much, why didn't she cancel her show at the Amalie Arena where it would be sold out? Oh, yeah, it's because she doesn't think that many people are going to see this one line in the book, and she expects people to see her anyway. If she truly hated Tampa Bay so much, and it was so awful and so horrendous, she would cancel that show at the Amalie Arena. But I wouldn't want her to do that. That would be an awful thing to do, because then You're giving away business for the Amalie Arena, for all the Ubers that could pick her up, for Ferg's Live across the block, for Hooters, for all the different places at Channel Side. It would be really, really bad for business. It'd be bad for Ybor City. Any place in this area, it would be really bad for business if she were to cancel her show at the Amalie Arena because she doesn't like Tampa Bay because of a one-night bang. But she's not a sex comedian. All right. And this is from Chris Spada of TampaBay.com. Amy Schumer has a great one-night bang in Tampa, but calls the city horrendous in her new book. That would be like if I were to hate Cleveland because of some of the things that went down on Rover's Morning Glory and how the fan base was mean to me for about 4 months after I got fired and after I joined here in Tampa Bay. It would be like me hating the city of Greensboro, North Carolina, because my uncle lives there and me and my uncle, we aren't close whatsoever and we don't get along at all. So I were to hate Greensboro, North Carolina. It's very, very weird to hate a city based on one incident. And the thing, too, is I'm sure she's had things that have happened in New York City or Philly or Chicago, cities that have more culture, because Tampa Bay is a transplant area. So there's not going to be much outrage because most people aren't from Tampa. But she would never say this about New York City or Philadelphia or Chicago because she would be booed out of there. Especially in the city of brotherly love. She would never talk bad about Philadelphia or New York City, the city that built her, or Chicago, a city that loves their comedy. But she would say it about Tampa Bay, a city that's not going to react that much because we have the sun, we have hot women, we have a lot of things in Tampa Bay. But we're horrendous, I tell you. We are awful. Oh, Tampa Bay sucks. All right. Amy Schumer has some harsh words for Tampa Bay in her new book, The Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo. But she's not a sex comic. Okay. 6 pages into the memoir, the comedian, TV, and movie actress described being on tour, traveling between 2 awful cities, Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Tampa Bay, Florida. It gets worse. I'm not scared about writing that because I know that for a fact that no one lives there has ever read a book before. Ha ha! Burn, Amy! You got us! Because there's no libraries here in town. Because there's no bookshops. Because nobody reads in Tampa Bay. Because we're dumb brain idiots that sit in the sun and have sex with our dogs in Largo, Florida, and drive the wrong way on the highway. What an endorsement. But you know what I mean? Oh, yeah, we don't know how to read. How am I reading this article? How are people reading the Tampa Bay Times or the Creative Loafing or any website ever? How do people pay their bills here in town? How do people drive on the highway if they can't read and they can't read the signs? It's one of the most unoriginal and hacky jokes. Oh, no one knows how to read there. And that's why I'm not scared about writing that. It's because no one knows how to read in Tampa. What was it about Tampa Bay when you were here besides your one-night bang that you loved, but you're not a sex comic? What was it about Tampa Bay that made you think that we don't know how to read? You are welcome to call in for any reason you're listening, 856-49-HOPPY, and I will be reaching out when you're in town because I would love to have you on. What was it about Tampa where you went, oh my God, they don't know how to read? Wow. I knew that, let's say, Miami knew how to read or Orlando or Fort Myers, but man, there was something in the water where Tampa Bay, Clearwater, Newport Richey, St. Petersburg, I just got this vibe that they didn't know how to read. Amy, what was it about this great city that's up and coming with a great mayor like Bob Buckhorn? What was it about Tampa Bay where you went, wow, that is unfortunate that they didn't pass 3rd grade and they don't know how to read. Ugh. So here's what happened. There is this person, Mrs. Bedingfield, who owns the Inkwood Books, the shop that's on Armenia in South Tampa. And here's what she said to TampaBay.com. It was so weird and so ironic because I read that part about how nobody in Tampa reads, and I was sitting there in Tampa Bay reading. How is that possible, Amy? If we don't know how to read, why is this place, Inkwood Books, why is there a bookshop in Tampa if we don't know how to read? Why are there exotic bookshops if we don't know how to read? Hack. Schumer goes on to explain that while she doesn't normally have one-night bangs, I'm not saying that she's had a lot of one-night bangs, but her show's called Inside Amy Schumer. The book is called The Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo. Her movie was called Trainwreck, about a girl that has one-night bangs. She made jokes about getting some finger play from a random taxi, and she would talk about these sex experiences she had on shows like Howard or Ron and Fez or Bennington or Opie and Anthony. I'm not saying you've had a lot of one-night bangs. I'm just saying be honest with yourself. I'm not saying you're a whore. You're not a slut. You're actually a comedian I looked up to from like 2010 to 2014, 2015 last year. But then you got too preachy and you're trying to overcompensate. Be yourself. Just because things may have happened in the past doesn't mean that you should sweep it under the rug. Here's what Mrs. Bedingfield said, who owns Inkwood Books on Armenia. Her book is really good and very funny. She comes across as very nice. Because Amy Schumer is nice. She seems like a really genuine person. It just seems like she tries to do way too much at once. And it seems like she's overcompensating and she's trying way too hard. Like she doesn't believe in her heart that we don't know how to read. That's a hacky, moronic joke. Some open micer in, let's say, Newport Richie or Bradenton could come up with that joke at an open mic comedy session. A lot of comedians, especially the ones from Cigar City Comedy, could come up with better punchlines about why Tampa Bay is weird than saying, they don't know how to read. I mean, come on. Be honest with yourself. You said this because you did have a good one-night bang here in Tampa Bay. And you said this because it's 6 pages in and you knew it would cause outrage. You knew it would rile people up. You knew that it would grab attention and get the headlines going and get a little podcast out of Tampa Bay talking about you. You wouldn't write this on the let's say 97th page of the book or the 156th. There's a reason why you put this in within the first chapter, within the first 6 pages, because you wanted to be shocking and you wanted to be outrageous. But you're not a sex comic. You're a preacher, I guess. She goes on to say that she did meet a guy while she was on a flight in Tampa and writes about how it was one of the best nights of her life. But otherwise, she had no fun in Tampa Bay, even though Ybor City can be a trip, even though Ferg's Live can be very fun, and Soho is a ton of fun. And the Amalie Arena is some of the best sport fans in all of this city. It's a fun environment. And there's beaches. And downtown St. Pete is great. And Bradenton is great. And Clearwater is fun. But you had no fun in an up-and-coming city, a top 20 market. If it's so awful, why aren't you canceling your show in October? Because you want the money and you don't believe this. If Tampa Bay is so awful, why did you say to us at the Oddball Comedy Fest last year, what's up, Tampa? You did talk about your bang. I remember that. But you didn't say, man, this city sucks. Man, you guys don't know how to read. You did 20 minutes on periods and how much you hate the Kardashians. Maybe my memory, like I said, is gone away. But I just don't remember you saying we don't know how to read. Here's what Mrs. Bedingfield wants to do, who owns Inkwood Books on Armenia Drive in Tampa Bay. She changed the sign in front of Inkwood to say, Mrs. Schumer, give us another chance. Love the 3 people who read. But we're so dumb and moronic that we're not going to know how to read the sign, Amy. Here's what Mrs. Bedingfield went on to say. Maybe Tampa Bay didn't show her a good time. That's on us. I'm not mad about what she wrote at all. I just know that we could show her a better time. She just didn't know the right people or the right place last time she was here. That may be the case, but this is a great city with people from all over the country, so you never know who you're going to meet at bars. Like if you're in Chicago or you're in Philly or Atlanta or New York, you're going to meet people who are biased towards that city, especially if you're in Chicago or New York City. Everybody is basically the same. They all have the accent like me if you're from Chicago, or they're all tough and rugged in New York City. But Tampa Bay is so awesome because you never know who you're going to meet. Everybody's a trip. I love working events at 102.5 The Bone. If it was at the Amalie Arena or meeting the fans at ticket drops for Bud and Burgers, I thoroughly enjoy every time I scan my key card here and I get to either drive the Hummer or I'm hanging out with Sava and we go to events. People here are very gracious. They appreciate the sun. Tampa Bay is a lot of fun. So I don't know where she went, where she is so bored and she hates the people so much. Here's what it says. Mrs. Bedingfield from the Inkwood Bookshop on Armenia in Tampa Bay is using her Facebook page to invite Schumer to take part in a book signing. But no one's going to be there, Amy, because we don't know how to read. We're morons here. When she's going to be here in October at the Amalie Arena. But how are we going to figure out a way to get there? And how are we going to know which place it is? We might be at a club in Ybor City thinking it's the Amalie because we don't know how to read the sign. Maybe we'll be at Ferg's going, where's Amy Schumer? Because we're not going to know how to read the sign, Amy. Maybe we'll be in Clearwater because we won't even know we're in Tampa Bay because we don't know how to read the signs. How do we get through life if just 3 people know how to read here in town? Ugh. Here's what it says. Mrs. Bedingfield, who owns the shop, says it's an important issue to me too. I think we could be friends. Because she said that all the proceeds that go to Amy Schumer's appearance will go to her gun control group. Very, very odd choice by Amy Schumer to do this. Very, very strange. Because like I said, she wouldn't say this to this town of brotherly love. Like, let's say, Philly. Like Bill Burr has that legendary clip from the O&A traveling virus tour where he just went off for 9 minutes on that city. She wouldn't say this about Chicago or New York or Atlanta or Dallas or Portland or Seattle. But she's going to say it about Tampa because Florida's an easy target. So many things happen here that not that many people are going to freak out over it. And I'm not even outraged by it. I just thought because my show won Best Local Podcast here in 2015 by The Creative Loafing, hell yeah, I thought it would be a good chance for me to defend the city. And I don't want to hear any comments from anybody that go, well, you weren't born here, Hoppy. Tampa Bay is awesome, and it feels like home. Not a big fan of Chicago because of the cold weather, because of the bad sport teams, and it's just becoming the depressed Midwest. I never got the whole thing where you can't have a take on a city or an opinion because you weren't there long enough. Very, very odd. I had that when I worked in Cleveland and people got mad at me because I had a take on Manziel. Never got the whole thing where you're not there long enough so you can't have an opinion on our city because you don't have an IQ and you're not allowed to have an opinion. Like I said, what I say is what I feel on this show. The old me 2 years ago would have gone shock jock on this segment, would have been saying mean things about her. Amy Schumer is so much more talented than me. It's ridiculous. She goes up there without a speech moment, without being a broken record for 2 seconds in a row, and knocks it dead at the Oddball Comedy Fest. She was in a movie that was huge last summer, Trainwreck. She has decent skits on Inside Amy Schumer. She's great whenever she was on Opie and Anthony or whenever she was on Jim Norton's show a few months ago or Bennington or Howard. She's much more prepared for success than me. So you will never, ever hear me say that she's not talented. That's what I hate, too, is whenever people rip into her or people rip into other comics or other radio hosts that they don't like. They go, there are no talent hack. Even if they are taking jokes from other people, the fact that they're able to use those jokes in their own manner, even if they're not original, and make people laugh in front of a crowd, you have talent. So you'll never, ever hear me say that Amy Schumer doesn't have talent. But here's what I will finish off with. Amy Schumer, you are more than welcome to come on Happy Hour. I would love to have you on. I would love to have an open discussion. I would love to have you explain to me why we can't read. I would love to have you say why we are such morons here and why you would base this whole city on a one-night bang and why the people here are awful and there's nothing to do when you're in Florida. If this was, let's say, a small town in the middle of nowhere, then I could maybe get the idea of hating on the city. But I've never, ever gotten the fact when comedians or radio hosts or any type of famous person rips on the people that live in that city. If it wasn't for those people, you wouldn't be where you're at. I'm sorry, because those people paid to see you. Those people paid to see your movie. Those people paid for your CD. Those people added you on Twitter. Those people are talking about you. And even though this has been kind of a negative segment about Amy Schumer, say what you want, I gave her attention. People are now going to Google her and go to tampabay.com, and I'll tweet out the link. And they're going to want to go to Inkwood Books on Armenia Drive. So Amy Schumer talking about Tampa Bay, at the end of the day, she got what she wanted. She got attention and she got PR. I just wish she was more genuine at times and she didn't have to go for the easy humor of, because Tampa Bay doesn't know how to read. Really? I could come up with a better reason why Tampa Bay is weird. We don't know how to drive. We're out of our mind. But saying we don't know how to read is hacky. All right, here's the deal. Amy Schumer. My email is ryanhoppyradio@gmail.com. My phone number is 847-34. Oh, get it. That was my cell phone. You can call me at 856-49-HOPPY at Ryan Hoppy Radio. I will be tweeting this at you. I am a fan of your work. I do respect what you do. You are so much more talented than me at this point with where we're at in our lives. I respect you. But at the end of the day, the fact that you had to go to this level of humor to trash a city, maybe you need new material. Maybe you need to just take a quick vacation and not try to do too much things about Amy Schumer at once. Because it just seems like you're beginning to beat a dead horse and you're doing unoriginal comedy. But like I said, if you want to come on Happy Hour, you're more than invited.
Happy Hour. Happy Hour.